All right, so we're at probably the most awaited part of the Tokyo video series, which is, again, we're on the 2005 series, and this is the video games section. And there are a lot of arcades in Tokyo, obviously. There's a lot of them. I mean, even now, there's still arcades everywhere there, and that's mainly because there was never a really super strong stigma in Japan, or at least if there was, it didn't become as embedded in the culture as it did in North America and other Western countries. It just never really got to that point, and again, if it did, it didn't last that long, because when you're in Japan, and when you're in Tokyo specifically, and you go to arcades like this, I saw pretty much every walk of life there. I saw older businessmen with briefcases and full-on suits and like little, earpieces and stuff like that, like playing pop music and playing like these little girly songs. I saw like groups of chicks go in there and play like, the master mode difficulty on like Tetris and Drum Mania and all this other stuff, just, like it's perfectly normal. I'll never forget, I may have told this in an earlier part, but I'll never forget this one day I was in an arcade right near this one. This is in Shinjuku. It's right by the train station, but I'll never forget. This dude came in looking just, I hate to use this word, but about as swag as it gets. Like, I mean, he had on like a full suit. He had on like his hair just done perfectly. He had like gold chain on, gold necklace, everything else like that. Had like, these super like pro-looking earrings and all this stuff, like super fancy dude, had like super slick shoes and all this stuff, and just comes walking in there like, whatever else. And he's got this girl on his arm and everything else like that. And the chick looks like, basically super stereotypical, like J-pop model, just, again, just like he is, like probably her outfit was probably like $800 or something like that. And her hair probably cost like $400 to get done and stuff like that. And he goes in, and I just finished playing Drum Mania. And, like, he motions to me, like, can I play? And I'm like, oh, sure, go ahead. So I get up, and I'll say that on a different note, too. It always blows my mind how polite Japanese, like, again, this isn't speaking for every single Japanese person, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not going to sell us disclaimers here, because you know what the hell I'm saying. Anyways, it always blows my mind how polite everybody there was with the coin lines. Like, people would politely wait in line, and when it was your turn, when the guy had lost and stuff like that, like if somebody lost a Street Fighter or whatever else, they'd just get up, no anger, no resentment, just, okay, your turn next, and okay, that's it. Here, it's like somebody loses, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking show you tonight. It's like, that's basically like, like what happens with fighting games now if you, if you lose and stuff like that. And obviously that's somewhat of an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. Anyways, getting back to the story though, he plays Drum Mania, and when you play Drum Mania there, they have these little cards that you can put in the machine, and then you put in like a pin number, and it allows you to keep all your scores and stuff like that you've done. Obviously, it's like a little miniature memory card type thing. And this guy had 99s on half the set list on Extreme, and max on the other half. Now, if you don't know what that means, 99 means how many percent of the notes he got perfect in a song. Okay? And max means he got all perfects. Now let me point out how insane this is. You all know how good I am at Drum Mania and drumming games in general, right? In the entire time I've played Drum Mania, which is over 7 years, I have gotten max on 2 songs. They were both level 10 and 20 in difficulty, out of a scale from 1 to 100. This guy had max on songs that were upwards of 70 and 80 in difficulty, and he had them on like 150 to 200 songs. Okay? So this guy was astronomically better at this game than I was. And yet here he came in here looking like he was like some sort of like, super pro like businessman slash model slash, I don't know, like actor or something like that, And he just sits down at the machine, just, I'm gonna go to my songs. What song should I play today? Oh, I think I'll play this like level 99 song. I'll just play this for fun. Oh, I got 98% perfect. Oh, that wasn't that good. Like, he wasn't saying this stuff, but his attitude pretty much like put it off, and I was just like. And of course, what was funny about this whole thing is both of them were chain smoking the whole time. Like she stood behind him and was just done, just left and right, And he, again, when he got done, just left. So it blows my mind. And when you go to arcades there, most of the machines have ashtrays on them that are of the company. So there's like Namco ashtrays and Sega ashtrays and all this other stuff. I'm gonna feel like an idiot if I said this in a previous video. Anyways, what are we at here now? We're like 4 minutes into the video and I haven't even changed the picture. So anyways, what this game is an actually extremely rare game that Konami put out, and it matches Mambo A Go-Go for having the extreme the notoriety of being one of two series that only got one version, and that was it. As far as I know, Dance Central, I think it's Dance Central 86.4, I could be wrong on that, only got this one version, and that was it. And then Mambo A Go-Go only got one version, and that was it too, but I might be off on that. But anyways, the way you play the game is shown here, and you can probably figure out why it didn't do that good just from this alone. You basically have to crab walk this game. You basically got to crab walk it. You've got the 3 panels right there. And by the way, if you're wondering who this is, that's my dad. It's weird seeing him with brown hair because this is like, 9 years ago we went to this? Jesus, 9 years ago. Wait, no, that's not right, right? 2005? 2005? No, that's right. That's right. That's 9 years ago. Oh, jeez. Anyways, so you got the 3 panels here, and you had to basically crab walk on them. And you can see the screen right there. There's the notes and stuff like that going down the screen. Well, you can't really see the notes, but there's like the panels. And it was just really awkward. It was really, really awkward. I mean, I get they were probably going for something with it, but it didn't work. And you can see a bit of more close up there. Like, there's how the screen looked and everything else. And again, when I went back in 2007, this game was gone from the arcade. So it did really bad. It did not do good. So, yeah. And another shot of the games panels down there. Again, just very... Also notice our amazing phone down there. And my Nintendo wallet, which I actually sold off. So, old Nintendo wallet. That thing's back from 2003. Got that back in the day. Hot Topic. I'm sure you all remember going there back in the day. And so, yeah, it's Dance 86.4 Funky Radio Station. That's what it is. And one play was $1. 100 yen, so, yep. You can see the list of songs here it had was My Sweet Darling, which is on a lot of Bimani games. Every Day at the Bus Stop. I don't know what that even is. And, yeah. Speaking of the Bimani stuff here, you could get these little cards that were the ones I was talking about with memory card stuff, but you basically could get them in different styles per game. And so here is Beatmania 2DX, it's Happy Sky, and then Poppin' Music. I think that's Carnival, I'm not sure. I don't know. But they've now switched to a singular card that works on all of their games because now they've adapted this for use in pretty much like a lot of their games. So they've, these cards are probably, I don't know, worth like $2 or $3 now or something like that. They're like highly collectible, if you have them or whatever. I've still got like my Drum Mania one sitting around, my Guitar Freaks one. And then here's another shot of the arcade. And you can see here, again, most of the cabinets are what they call candy cabinets. And you just sit down at them, and on the other side is somebody else playing you. And I've always been kind of 50-50 on this, because if you can't see the other person playing you, then they can't get like off of impulse, like see your hand movements and stuff like that, and kind of like, oh, I see him starting to make like a fireball motion out of the corner of my eye. I know he's going to do that. And that was a trick you could do at arcade machines on Western ones back in the day to basically like, figure out if somebody's going to do something. I mean, that worked, it did work. But on the other hand, even though you may get that advantage playing Western style, it's also kind of neat to be shoulder to shoulder to somebody and have that intensity of like, you're right there in the middle of the action. But, it's like, again, I grew up on Western arcade machine style, so that's probably why. I don't really think there's an inherent bad or good style. It's neat, too, in Japan, too, to be playing this, like, faceless opponent and not have to worry that you just pulled off a really trolling move on them and they're going to get mad at you or something like that, you know? So it's kind of a catch-22. And up here you can see on the monitor behind this guy, you can see this is linked to the Tekken machine. This is something they've done in a few arcades in Southern California recently, but you know, this is back in 2005. This was unheard of in American arcades back then. And even now, like I said, it's extremely rare that you would have a monitor that would be hooked up to the game and would show either replays or other information about the game, leaderboards, stuff like that. And that's all over most Japanese arcades because a lot of them have these, I don't know if I can see it in this picture, but they have like a central server where they have all these modems just stacked up on top of one another, and then they actually connect to all the games in the arcade. And when they do this, you know, they can get information from all these different places in Japan, and that's not really feasible in America because America is such a large country geographically as compared to just Tokyo alone. You know, it's not like hard to get the information from a bunch of arcades in Tokyo and then relay it into a central server and then have it be fed back and say, oh, this is the top score of the day, this is the top whatever else, you know. And so it's really kind of something unique to Japan that I can't see us ever having here, at least not for a very long time. So kind of cool in that, and probably one of the reasons, among many others, why arcades still continue to even exist there, even though they're not flourishing as much as they used to. Now, I should note, I think I've talked about this in earlier videos, but for those of you that missed it, I'll just go over this real quick. This garbage can has two little can-shaped cylinders in it, or, you know, openings. And the reason for this is because they only want to allow trash to be thrown there of a certain type. But on a side note, in Japan, garbage cans are few and far between. And this is because much like how we had our 9/11, and after 9/11, you know, everybody was like spooked of anything to do with that, including, you know, like getting on a plane, or of course the incredibly like, you know, overbearing security checkpoints we have on planes and stuff like that, getting to the airport, etc. Well, Japan had their own 9/11 of sorts on the train system a while back. I think it was a few years before 9/11, or maybe a few years after. I know it was in the early 2000s, but somebody put a nerve gas in a bunch of garbage cans there, like this cult did, and it paralyzed and killed a whole bunch of people. And so after that, garbage cans became few and far between in Japan, and a lot of them had openings on them that were only going to allow small objects to be fit in them. Either, in some cases, obviously, for recycling purposes, because the recycling system there is just incredibly amazing, but it's also to keep stuff like that from happening again. So if you go to Japan, word of advice, bring a backpack with you everywhere. I did save my ass so many times because I would like buy figurines or magazines or whatever else, you know, etc. And like I'd want to unwrap the figurines or the magazines or whatever else, and I'd have nowhere to throw the trash from it at all. Like, if you have trash there from food or whatever else, you better hope you're near an arcade, because arcades and actual restaurants are two of the only places that are going to have places to throw trash. Otherwise, you're pretty much screwed. So, two people playing Drum Mania V, Guitar Freaks V, standard stuff, you know. Now, I should know what these are. They're slot machines, but you don't actually get paid money for them. You get these little tokens, and this is something I've actually never understood about Japan. Or not about Japan, but about this whole thing is you get these tokens from these machines, and it doesn't seem like you can really exchange them for anything. You just get them. And I know there's places like pachinko parlors where obviously you can do the whole thing where you get a bunch of the metal balls and then you exchange them for tokens at the counter, and then you take the tokens around the street and then you pay it to somebody else and then you get money back to, like, you know, circumvent the whole gambling is illegal thing there. I get that. But the stuff you get from these machines and the machines from other arcades don't seem to go to anything, and I can't seem to find any prize counters. So if anybody can enlighten me on this, this is one of the things I've never understood about the whole thing. So, yeah. And so another picture here showing two of the extremely rare trash cans that actually take, you know, larger objects in them. This is like really rare that these actually exist. But the reason I'm showing this picture also is something else. When a lot of people think of Japan, they think of wall scrolls. I shouldn't say a lot of people. When anime fans think of Japan, they think of like wall scrolls and posters and so forth, you know, of like their favorite anime or a game or a movie or whatever else, etc. And so when I went to Tokyo, one of the number one things that people constantly asked me to get them when I was there were posters like these ones, like these ones sitting around here and everything else. And another thing I could never understand is that when you go to Japanese arcades and when you go to Japanese like manga shops and video game shops and stuff, these posters are everywhere. There's hundreds of them from all different games and television shows and movies and anime and everything. But when you go to buy them, you can't buy them anywhere. I couldn't find anywhere to buy those. Like, it didn't matter if it was from a super popular game or anime or whatever. I couldn't find a single one to buy my friends. I was just mystified by this because it seems to be the exact opposite in America. That almost nobody actually puts these up anywhere, but yet when you go to like an actual shop for, Japanese stuff, they're everywhere. There's like thousands of these you can buy, just like the posters you can buy at Walmart or whatever else. And I've never understood why that is. So if somebody can enlighten me on that one too, I'd love to know. This is turning more into a question series than an actual documentary informative series, but I guess it's informative that now you know that getting wall scrolls and posters in Japan is practically impossible. At least from the areas I went to. And I went to a bunch of stores in Shinjuku and Shibuya and Ikebukuro and Akihabara and everywhere. I couldn't find any. So, I don't know. And apparently somebody didn't have a good day with that trash can. So, yeah. And on to more Bimani related stuff. This is just becoming the Bimani video, not the video games video. Anyways, so what we have here is something called the EE Mall, or E-Mall, I don't know which, but anyways, you go on it, and you put in your little card and stuff like that right there, and you put in your password and whatever else, and you use this little, orange Beatmania style controller, and what you do with this is a bunch of Bimani games have unlocks that you can only get by playing a certain number of times and accumulating points, and then you go to this mall thing and you buy the songs for it, and then of course you can only play them if you have your card inserted in the machine. So that's what this basically was for. And so that's what you would do, and each machine would have a certain set of songs on it to match that certain mix of Bimani game that was out. So, and this is the little card reader thing. Again, you put in your card and you put in your PIN number, and there it is. And so again, they have actually abolished this whole system with the PIN numbers putting in the card, because what you do now is you just get the card and you just slap it on the machine and it just reads it and you're done. So it's actually pretty cool. Before you ask, no, this is not what the game was I was just showing. Japan is obviously a media titan, and one of the big things they do is if there's an anime, there's a game for it, and there's a movie for it, and there's a drama for it, and there's a music album for it, and there's toys for it, and this all goes in a cyclical fashion. So if there's toys, there's an anime for it. If there's a movie, there's a game for it, etc. They always do this. They're insane with merchandising. They're like so pro at doing this. And so as part of that, one of the things that happens obviously is you get crossovers like this with the whole cast of Azumanga Daioh, which by the way, I know this is going to blow a lot of people's minds, but I've never seen this show. I've never even read anything from it. In fact, I've never even read or seen anything from anything this person's done at all. Though I know they made Yotsuba, I know they made Azumanga Daioh, I haven't read anything from any of them. And I remember always stating this like when I was in college, and I'd be like around like my anime loving friends, and they'd just be like, have you never seen this series? Oh my god, it's Jesus incarnate, and so, or incarnate, whatever. So, anyways, though, they did a crossover deal on that, and so it's basically Puzzle Bobble, which, it's the game with Bub and Bob from Bubble Bobble, etc. Little SNK game that you always play when you went to the laundromat, and, it'd be really broken controls, and then the machine would just reset and take your money. And if you want to know what that looks like, here it basically is. Again, I'm going to guess the icons actually mean something, the little Puzzle Bubble icons. I know they're all like kanji. It might be the kanji and hiragana from Azumanga Daioh's title. You've obviously got two of the characters here with two cats that I guess have something to do with the series. I don't know. You will probably all know better than I. But yeah, so, so it's like I said, it's kind of neat to do crossovers like that. But otherwise, it's fundamentally, as far as I know, the exact same as Puzzle Bobble. And now we get into one of the coolest things there, at least technologically. I'm not really too into MMORPGs, But the fact that this existed back in 2005 in an arcade is pretty cool. And so what goes on here is you can see these machines here, right? And you see this big one up here. This again follows what I talked about with the arcade machines having like a big screen that everybody can see. But basically what you do is let me go forward here a button or two. You might be able to see. Yeah, here we go. So the game is called, by the way, The Quest of D. And what you do here is you run through the map and stuff like that. And it's basically an MMORPG, but you have all these buttons here on the side you can press, I'm guessing, to activate spells, activate items. Same thing here for the bottom row, etc. Your life, your level, so forth, you know, your energy meters, all this other stuff. And people will come in here, and you can see at the very bottom here, it's probably hard to see, but there's a joystick and the buttons, so it's actually controlled with a joystick and buttons. But from what I can remember, the screen is also a touch screen also for when you hit the buttons. So you control it with the joystick and the buttons, but then when you need to activate something, you just reach up and touch it. And again, back for 2005, that's a pretty crazy concept. That's like years ahead of anything that America had at the time. I mean, obviously in games, because touchscreen technology was barely even an inkling in America in 2005. And here they've got it fully utilized in an arcade. And so if you see here in the back, you can see there's like a centralized machine right here. And this holds a bunch of stuff for like records and so forth. But then on top of that too, back at this first picture, this machine over here, is that? Oh, you know, I think that might actually be for a different game. That's my mistake. So basically, that's actually for a different game. I think that was for the Idol Master games or something like that. But this one, though, basically will show like the top players of the day, the top players in the region, the top players in all of Tokyo. You know, if somebody's like got a really good quest achievement, you know, the top levels, etc. And it's really cool that they had that kind of networking on that, and that you might see your friend on there or something like that or whatever else, and it allows you to compare scores. And it's just years ahead of what Western countries had at that time, and pretty much any other arcades outside of obviously very you know, centralized ones. But I don't really know. Even I don't really think anybody else besides Japan had arcades like this. I mean, the gaming culture was this far ahead, I'd say, in probably, you know, like Korea and Japan, or Korea and China and stuff like that to some degree. But I don't think they had like the small centralized servers like this at all. But I could be wrong. I don't know. Yeah, that's the Quest of D. And here we are back at the first photo for the day. So that is it for the video games one. If you want to see more episodes of this, keep on tuning in. And obviously you can go back to see the previous episodes if you haven't already. And that's about it. And I'm going to keep on doing more Tokyo 2005 videos, although we are almost at the end of the Tokyo 2005 pictures. So if you want to see me do the videos, I'll be happy to do that too. Let me know what you think, if you want me to do the videos and stuff like that, and I will get right to that. And that is about it. So yeah. Got him. Oh, he got you. That's a good sheriff. That's a hell of a good sheriff.